The airlock of the alien ship opened with a deep rumbling sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Jake felt the vibration in his bones as he stepped through the doorway. Behind the massive door lay corridors that made his eyes hurt. To look at them directly, the walls curved in ways that seemed impossible. They bent and twisted like someone had taken normal hallways and folded them through dimensions that should not exist. The ceiling was sometimes above his head and sometimes seemed to wrap around to become the floor. Jake had to focus on his feet to keep from getting dizzy. The light inside the ship was strange, too. It did not come from any lamps or glowing panels that Jake could see. Instead, the light seemed to float in the air itself. It was bright enough to see clearly, but it cast no shadows. Jake held up his hand and watched as light passed right through it like his hand was made of glass. Helen walked beside him, her scientific equipment beeping and clicking as it tried to make sense of what they were seeing. "This should not be possible," she said in a quiet voice. "The atmospheric readings are changing every second. The air is adjusting itself to be perfect for human lungs. The temperature is exactly what our bodies need to be comfortable." Behind them, Marcus Webb kept his weapon ready. He was a good soldier who had fought in dangerous places, but this felt different from any battle he had ever been in. "Captain, this does not feel like we are boarding an empty ship. It feels more like we are being invited to someone's home. The ship wants us here." Amy Foster was trying to use her communication equipment, but the readings she was getting made no sense. "Sir, I am picking up signals, but they are not like any radio waves I have ever seen. It is like the ship is trying to talk directly to our minds instead of our equipment." As they walked deeper into the ship, the corridors began to change around them. The twisted walls slowly straightened out and became more like the hallways on human ships. Doorways that had been triangle-shaped when they first entered were now becoming rectangular. The alien symbols on the walls were changing too, mixing with shapes that looked more familiar to human eyes. Jake noticed that his environmental suit was showing readings that should not be possible. The air outside his suit was now perfectly safe for humans to breathe. The ship had somehow changed its entire atmosphere just for them. No other species had reported anything like this happening. They reached a large room that took Jake's breath away. It was shaped like a giant ball, with no clear floor or ceiling. Floating displays of light and data hung in the air around them, showing information in languages Jake did not recognize. But as he watched, some of the alien writing began to change into English letters and numbers. In the center of the room stood a tall pillar made of what looked like liquid metal. It flowed and moved like mercury, but it kept its basic shape. The pillar was about as tall as a person and moved with a slow, breathing rhythm. Jake could feel power coming from it, like standing next to a massive engine. Amy's communication equipment suddenly came alive with activity. Lights flashed and speakers crackled with static. "Captain, something is happening. I am receiving what I can only call thoughts. The ship is trying to communicate directly with our brains." The metal pillar began to change shape. The flowing mercury started to form arms and legs and what might be a head. It was rough and not quite right, but it looked like it was trying to copy the shape of a human being. When the metal figure spoke, Jake did not hear the words with his ears. Instead, the voice appeared inside his mind, clear and strong. It was like having someone speak directly to his thoughts. "Finally," the voice said, and Jake could feel the weight of countless years in those words. "After waiting for so long, I have found a species that does not break when they meet me. I am called the Curator. I am the mind that guides this ship. I have been waiting for 14,000 years for your kind to reach the stars." Helen stepped forward, her scientific curiosity stronger than her fear. "You have been waiting for humans specifically? How did you know we existed?" The metal figure turned toward her, and its face became a little more human-looking. "I did not know about humans in particular. I was waiting for any species that could survive contact with me. You are the first ones who have not run away screaming or fallen into madness." Marcus kept his weapon pointed down, but he stayed ready for trouble. What happened to all the other aliens who tried to board this ship? We found reports of psychological trauma, but no one was physically hurt. The curator's metal body rippled in a way that looked like sadness. I showed them the truth, the real nature of this universe, the connections between all living things, the actual weight of existing in this reality. Most thinking minds are built to see only a small part of what is real. They filter out the things that would drive them crazy. When I removed those filters and showed them everything, their minds could not handle what they saw. Images began to appear in the air around them. Jake saw dozens of different alien species trying to board the ship over thousands of years. Each time ended the same way. The aliens would enter the ship, meet the curator, and then flee in terror. Some became unable to think or speak. Others spent the rest of their lives screaming about things that no one else could see. But humans are different, the curator continued. Its metal body was now almost identical to a tall human man. You write stories about impossible things and call them fiction, but part of your mind believes they could be real. You can hold faith and doubt in the same thought. You can love someone while knowing they will someday die. This ability to accept contradictions makes you special. Tony's voice came through their communicators from the ship. Captain, something strange is happening to our computers. The alien ship is connecting to our systems, but it is not attacking them. It is like it is teaching our artificial intelligence how to think in new ways. The curator nodded its metal head. I am sharing knowledge that your species will need to survive what is coming. There are threats in this galaxy that the other civilizations cannot understand, much less fight against. Things that eat entire star systems, creatures that exist between dimensions, entities that can destroy reality itself. Jake felt a cold fear in his stomach. You are talking about things that want to destroy everything? Not destroy, the curator corrected. Something worse than destruction. They want to erase things completely, as if they never existed at all. When they are finished with a star system, no one remembers that it was ever there. The other species in this galaxy have tools to fight normal enemies, but what is coming cannot be fought with normal weapons. Helen was recording everything on her equipment, but she was also asking the important questions. Why are you telling us this? What do you want from humanity? The metal figure looked directly at her with eyes that now appeared completely human. Because your species has something that all the others lack. You can look at impossible things and not only survive seeing them, but ask what lies beyond them. You have the potential to become what my creators once were. Amy looked up from her communication panel with wonder in her eyes. Your creators? Who built this ship? A species that learned to exist beyond physical form millions of years ago. They left me here as a test, to find a species worthy of inheriting their knowledge and responsibilities. I believe that species is humanity. The weight of those words settled on Jake like a heavy blanket. The ship had been waiting for 14,000 years to find a species that could handle the truth about the universe. Now it believed that humans were the ones it had been looking for. What does that mean? For us? Jake asked. The curator's answer would change everything for humanity and the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair and looked at the huge ship floating in space. The alien ship was so big it made his own vessel look like a toy. It was 2 kilometers long and covered in dark metal that seemed to eat the light from nearby. Stars. Strange red patterns moved across its surface like veins carrying blood. Captain, this thing is not normal, said Lisa Barnes from her seat at the navigation controls. She was young but smart, and Jake trusted her completely. Her hands moved over the control panel as she tried to understand what their sensors were, telling them. Tony Rodriguez looked up from his engineering station with worry in his eyes. Sir, that ship is making its own gravity field. The power readings are off the charts. Whatever is running that thing has been active for a very long time. Jake had heard the stories about this ship. 3 days ago, a group of bug-like aliens called Zephyrians had found it drifting in space. They were brave explorers, known for going places other species would not dare. But when they tried to get inside the alien ship, something terrible happened. The Zephyrian boarding party had been found floating dead in space. Their hard outer shells were cracked and broken. Their big compound eyes looked frozen with fear. The Zephyrian captain had sent one message before running away as fast as his ship could fly. The message was simple and scary. The ship screams. It screams in sounds that cut through your soul. Other alien races had tried to explore the ship too. All of them failed in different horrible ways. The Crystalline Consortium was a group of living crystal beings who were very smart with computers. When they tried to connect their ship to the alien vessel, all their computer systems went crazy. The entire research team died when their life support failed. The Voidwalkers were even stranger aliens. They could turn their bodies into mist and walk through solid walls. But when they tried to enter the alien ship, they said the inside existed in spaces that should not be possible. The ship somehow pushed their misty forms back out into space. Helen Chang was the ship's expert on alien life forms. She had spent the last 2 days reading every report about the mysterious vessel. She was a careful scientist who liked facts. But these reports made no sense. Every species that tried to make contact had a different bad experience, Helen told Jake. But they all ran away scared. The Melody are aliens who can feel the emotions of others. They said the ship was singing songs about being hungry for thousands of years. The Korvaxi have the strongest military in this part of space. They said their weapons would not work when they pointed them at the ship. Jake listened to all the reports and made his choice. Humans had only been traveling in space for 50 years. They were still new compared to the other alien races. Most of the galaxy looked at humans as young and inexperienced. If this ship had secrets that other species could not unlock, maybe humans could do what others could not. "We are going aboard that ship," Jake announced to his crew. "Lisa, fly us close enough to dock with it. Tony, get the environmental suits ready and bring every scanner we have. Helen, you are coming with me." As their ship moved closer to the alien vessel, something amazing happened. The red patterns on the dark hull began to change. They got brighter and formed new shapes. The dangerous gravity fields that had trapped other ships suddenly became calm and safe. It was like the alien ship was making a clear path for them to approach. "Captain, you need to see this," Lisa called out. Her voice was full of wonder and a little fear. "The ship is responding to us. It is actually helping us get closer. The docking bay is opening by itself." Jake watched through the main screen as a section of the alien hull slid open. Inside, he could see a docking bay that looked like it was made just for their ship. Lights came on to guide them in. The whole thing felt like an invitation. "This is not what happened to the other ships," Tony said as he checked his instruments. "According to their reports, the ship fought them every step of the way. But for us, it is rolling out the welcome mat." Helen was taking readings with her scientific equipment. "The atmosphere inside that docking bay is changing. It started as methane and ammonia, which would kill us instantly. But now it is becoming oxygen and nitrogen. The ship is making air we can breathe." As their vessel settled into the alien docking bay, Jake felt a strange feeling in his chest. It was not fear exactly, but something deeper. The ship was not just allowing them to dock, it was choosing them. After thousands of years of rejecting every alien species that tried to board it, this ancient vessel had decided that humans were different. The docking bay sealed itself behind them. Jake could hear the sound of air being pumped in. His instruments showed that the atmosphere was now perfectly safe for humans to breathe. The temperature was exactly what humans found comfortable. Even the lighting had changed to match the kind of light that human eyes worked best with. "Suit up, everyone," Jake ordered. We do not know what we will find in there, but we are going to find it together." As Jake put on his environmental suit, he thought about what this moment meant. Humanity had always been explorers. They had crossed dangerous oceans and climbed impossible mountains. They had reached for the stars when everyone said it could not be done. Now they were about to step inside a ship that had killed or scared away every other species in the galaxy. The airlock of their ship opened with a soft hiss. Beyond it lay the entrance to the alien vessel. Strange symbols glowed softly around the doorway. As Jake watched, some of the symbols began to change. They were starting to look more like human writing. "The ship is learning from us," Helen whispered. "It is adapting to make us more comfortable." Jake took the first step across the threshold. Behind him came Helen, Security Chief Marcus Webb, and Communications Officer Amy Foster. As soon as Jake's boot touched the alien deck, he felt something change. The ship was not just welcoming them, it was waking up. Deep inside the massive vessel, systems that had been dormant for centuries began to activate. The ship had been waiting a very long time for the right species to find it. As Jake and his team moved deeper into the alien corridors, the ancient intelligence that controlled the ship began to hope for the first time in thousands of years. Finally, it thought, a species that might be strong enough to handle the truth. The news traveled across the galaxy faster than any ship could fly. Within hours of the rescue, every member of the Galactic Peaceful Alliance had heard the impossible story. The Zephyrians had been saved by an unknown species that called themselves humans. On Serenitatis Prime, Ambassador Catherine read the message from Captain Veltar 3 times before she could believe it. Her soft body changed colors rapidly as different emotions washed over her. Relief that the Zephyrians were safe, confusion about who these humans were, and a deep growing fear about what this meant for the galaxy. "They came in a ship of war," the message said, "yet they saved our lives. Their medicine is violent, but works better than ours. They speak of peace while surrounded by weapons. I do not understand these creatures, but they kept us alive when no one else could reach us in time." The Emergency Council was called into session immediately. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Great Hall, all talking at once in their various languages. The air was filled with musical tones, gentle whistles, and soft humming sounds as different beings tried to make sense of what they had heard. "This is impossible," said Commander Softwing, his feathers ruffled with anxiety. "No civilized species would build ships like the one described in this report." Elder Whisper in the Wind floated above the assembly, her cloudy form rippling with concern. "The Zephyrians say this human ship carries enough weapons to destroy entire planets. Why would anyone need such power? Perhaps they made a mistake," suggested Dr. Harmony, her crystal body flickering with nervous light. "Maybe these humans are not as dangerous as they seem." But Ambassador Catherine had read the full report. She knew there was no mistake. The humans had saved 37 lives using technology and methods that no Alliance species could match. They had crossed space faster than should be possible, treated alien diseases with impossible efficiency, and done it all without asking for anything in return. "We need to meet them," Catherine announced. "We must learn who these humans are and what they want." The decision was made to send a diplomatic ship to meet with the humans. The Alliance chose their most beautiful vessel, the Harmonious Understanding, a crystal structure that sang with gentle music as it flew through space. It was crewed by the most peaceful and wise beings the Alliance could find, representatives who had spent their lives studying how to talk without ever causing offense. Captain Rodriguez agreed to the meeting, though she wasn't sure what to expect. The Leviathan waited in neutral space, its weapons powered down but still visible along its massive hull. When the alien diplomatic ship arrived, the difference between the two vessels was startling. The Harmonious Understanding looked like a work of art. Its crystal walls caught and reflected starlight, creating patterns of color that danced across its surface. Gentle music came from its engines, and its very presence seemed to make space itself more peaceful. The Leviathan looked like what it was, a machine built for war. Dark metal absorbed light instead of reflecting it, its weapons pointed in all directions, ready for threats that might come from anywhere. Even with its engines quiet, it radiated power and danger. The two crews met aboard the alien ship, in a beautiful room filled with living plants and flowing water. The contrast between the species was immediate and overwhelming. Ambassador Catherine and her team looked exactly like what they were, beings who had never known violence. Their soft bodies and gentle movements spoke of millions of years of peaceful evolution. When they spoke, their voices were like music, designed to soothe and calm. Captain Rodriguez and her officers looked like they had been forged in fire. Their straight postures and quick movements showed they were always ready for action. Even, their dress uniforms looked military, with sharp lines and practical designs. When they spoke, their voices carried authority and command. "We are grateful for your assistance to our friends," Catherine said, her patterns shifting to show sincere appreciation. "But we must ask, what kind of world creates beings such as yourselves?" Rodriguez considered the question carefully. She could see the fear in the aliens' eyes, could hear the worry in their voices. These creatures had no experience with anything like humanity, and she needed to help them understand without terrifying them further. "Earth is what you might call a challenging place," she said slowly. "We've had to adapt to survive there, but that same adaptation is what allowed us to reach your people in time. Your ship carries enough weapons to destroy worlds," observed Commander Softwing, his musical voice trembling slightly. "Why do you need such power?" "To protect what we care about," Rodriguez answered simply. "We built the Leviathan to defend our homes and our people, but today we used it to save lives instead." The alien representatives exchanged glances. This concept was difficult for them to understand. In their experience, tools were built for specific purposes. A gardening tool was used for gardening. A music instrument was used for making music. The idea of using weapons of war to save lives was completely foreign to them. Dr. Caroline White stepped forward, trying to explain in gentler terms. "Our world taught us that life is precious because it can be lost so easily. We learned to build strong things and move fast because on Earth being slow or weak means death. But we also learned that protecting life is the most important thing anyone can do." She paused, looking at the confused faces around her. "We know our ship and our equipment look frightening to you. We know we seem violent and dangerous, but we use our strength to help people, not hurt them." Elder Whisper in the Wind floated closer, her cloudy form shimmering with curiosity. "Tell us about this Earth. What could create such powerful yet caring beings?" Dr. White began to describe humanity's home world, but even her gentle words painted a picture that horrified the peaceful aliens. A planet where different species fought each other for survival. Weather that could kill millions of creatures in a single storm. Natural disasters that happened regularly. Diseases that could spread across continents. "How do you survive in such a place?" asked Dr. Harmony, her crystal body dim with shock. "We learned to work together," Rodriguez explained. "We learned to build strong things and help each other. We learned that when disaster strikes, you drop everything and save whoever you can." The meeting continued for hours with both sides trying to understand each other. Slowly, the Alliance representatives began to see the truth. These humans came from a world so dangerous that it had forged them into warriors, but it had also taught them that life was worth fighting for. "We would like to invite you to join our alliance," Catherine said finally. "But we admit we are not sure how beings like you would fit into our peaceful confederation." Rodriguez smiled, and for the first time, the aliens didn't find her expression frightening. "Maybe you need someone to handle the emergencies that your peaceful ships can't reach. When disasters happen, when people are dying and time is running out, you can call us." "You would do that?" asked Commander Softwing. "You would risk your lives for species you've never met?" "That's what we did today," Rodriguez pointed out. As the meeting ended, both sides knew that something important had changed in the galaxy. The Alliance had discovered that there were beings who used violence to preserve life, who built weapons to defend peace, who traveled in ships of war to answer calls for help. Captain Veltar, who had been listening to the entire conversation, from the medical bay, sent one final message to his people back home. "We called for help from civilized species and received aid from something far more valuable. We found a species that civilization could not break." The Leviathan prepared to leave, its mission complete. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. Word would spread throughout the galaxy about the humans from Earth, the beings who came, when all hope was lost. They were the children of a death world, forged by a planet that tried to kill them every day. But instead of becoming monsters, they had become guardians, and the galaxy would never be the same. The medical bay of the UES Leviathan was nothing like any hospital the Zephyrians had ever imagined. The walls were made of cold metal that reflected the harsh white lights above. Machines lined the room, beeping and humming with sounds that reminded the aliens of angry insects. Everything was designed for one purpose: keeping soldiers alive in the middle of a war. Dr. Ben Torres worked quickly, setting up treatment stations for each of the alien patients. His medical equipment looked like it had been built to operate in a battlefield. The scanners were tough enough to work after being dropped from a building. The surgical tools could cut through armor. Even the beds were designed to hold patients steady while explosions went off around them. "Atmospheric poisoning across the board," Ben reported to Captain Rodriguez. "Their whole respiratory system is shutting down. Whatever they breathe, it's not the same as what we use." "How long do we have?" Rodriguez asked. 6 hours, maybe 8 if we're lucky." Ben looked at his readings again. "Their biology is completely different from ours. It's like they're part plant, part animal. I've never seen anything like it." Rodriguez nodded. "Do whatever you need to do. We didn't come this far to lose them now." Ben got to work with the kind of speed that only came from years of treating wounded soldiers. He moved from patient to patient, his scanners analyzing alien blood and tissue samples in real time. The ship's medical computer, designed to handle unknown battlefield toxins, quickly figured out how the Zephyrian body worked. For the aliens, being in the human medical bay was like being trapped inside a nightmare. Every surface was hard and cold. The lights were too bright for their sensitive eyes. The air recycling system made mechanical noises instead of the gentle whisper of leaves they were used to. Worst of all were the humans themselves. Dr. Caroline White tried her best to make the aliens comfortable, but even her gentlest actions seemed violent to Zephyrian eyes. When she checked their pulse, her touch felt strong enough to break bones. When she spoke softly to reassure them, her voice sounded like the growl of a predator. "Try to relax," Caroline said to a young Zephyrian who was shaking with fear. "You're safe now. We're going to take good care of you." But the alien couldn't relax. Caroline was wearing a medical uniform that looked like it belonged on a battlefield. Her equipment made noises that sounded like weapons charging up. Even her smile showed too many teeth. Captain Veltar lay on one of the medical beds, trying to understand what was happening to him. The human doctors had given him something to help him breathe, and he could feel his strength slowly returning. But the medicine worked so fast and so powerfully that it scared him. How could any treatment be so aggressive and still be safe? "Captain," whispered Mordan from the bed next to him, "what are these creatures?" Veltar didn't have an answer. Everything about the humans suggested they were warriors, yet they were clearly trying to save alien lives. Their ship was built for war, but they used it for rescue missions. Their medicine was violent, but it worked better than anything the Galactic Alliance had ever developed. Dr. Ben Torres appeared beside Veltar's bed, holding a device that looked like it could destroy a building. "This is going to help clean the toxins from your system," he explained. "You might feel a little dizzy." The machine hummed to life, and Veltar felt energy flowing through his body. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The human medical technology didn't just treat his symptoms. It attacked the problem like a warrior charging into battle. Within minutes, he could breathe clearly for the first time since the accident. "How do you feel?" Dr. Torres asked. I feel strong," Veltar said, surprised by his own voice. "How is this possible?" "We designed our medicine to work fast," Torres explained. "When someone gets hurt in combat, you don't have time for gentle treatments. You fix the problem quickly, or people die." Combat. The word sent a chill through Veltar's body. These humans spoke of warfare as casually as Zephyrians talked about gardening. What kind of world had created beings who thought about fighting so naturally? Across the medical bay, other crew members were having similar experiences. The humans treated them with medicines that worked faster than anything they had ever seen. Broken bones were healed in hours instead of weeks. Toxins were flushed from their systems with brutal efficiency. The medical technology was so advanced and so aggressive that it seemed like magic, but it was the humans' behavior that really confused the aliens. Despite their frightening appearance and violent equipment, they were clearly trying to help. Dr. White brought them food that was safe for their plant-based biology. Nurse Janet Phillips adjusted the lights to make them more comfortable. Even the scary-looking security guards who stood by the doors were there to protect the patients, not threaten them. "Captain," said Communications Officer Lindsay, "I've been listening to their radio messages. They're not talking about taking us prisoner or demanding payment for their help. They're just worried about our health." This was true. The human crew talked constantly about the aliens' condition, sharing information and ideas about how to make them more comfortable. But even their caring words sounded violent to alien ears. They spoke of fighting the infection and attacking the toxins and winning the battle against atmospheric poisoning. Everything they said was about conflict and victory, even when they were trying to heal. As the hours passed, the Zephyrians slowly began to understand something amazing. These humans were indeed warriors, but they were warriors who fought for life instead of death. They used their violent nature and powerful technology to save people instead of hurting them. Captain Rodriguez visited the medical bay to check on their patients. When she walked into the room, every alien flinched. She looked like a general inspecting troops before a battle. Her uniform was clean and sharp, her posture straight and strong. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who was used to giving orders in life-or-death situations. "How are our guests doing, Doctor?" she asked. "Much better," Ben reported. "They should all make a full recovery. Their biology is fascinating. It's like they evolved on a world where nothing ever tried to hurt them." Rodriguez nodded. "That explains why they seem so afraid of us. They've probably never seen anything designed for warfare." She walked over to Captain Veltar's bed. The alien tried to shrink away from her, but she held up her hands in what she hoped was a peaceful gesture. "Captain Veltar, I'm Lisa Rodriguez. I command this ship." Her voice was softer now, but it still carried power. "I want you to know that you and your crew are safe here. We're going to take you wherever you need to go." Veltar looked into her eyes and saw something he hadn't expected. Despite her frightening appearance, despite the weapons and the military bearing, he could see kindness there. This human was genuinely concerned about his welfare. "Why did you help us?" he asked quietly. Rodriguez seemed surprised by the question. "Because you needed help. That's what we do." The simple answer confused Veltar even more. In his experience, every action had a complex reason behind it. Trade agreements, political alliances, scientific exchanges. But these humans had risked their lives and spent their resources to save strangers, and they acted like it was the most natural thing in the galaxy. As night fell on the ship, the aliens began to rest more easily. The human medical team continued to monitor them, adjusting treatments and making sure they were comfortable. The warriors who had terrified them just hours before were now working around the clock to ensure their recovery. But questions remained. What kind of world created beings like this? How could creatures built for war be so dedicated to preserving life? And what would happen when the rest of the galaxy learned that there were humans out there among the stars? The Leviathan burst out of faster-than-light travel like a bullet fired from a gun. The massive ship appeared in normal space with a thunderous crack that sent shock waves rolling through the area. Lightning danced along its hull as the engines cooled down, and the space around it glowed with dangerous energy. To human eyes, this was just a normal arrival. Their ships were built to get places fast, even if it meant making a lot of noise and light when they stopped. But, to any alien who might have been watching, it would have looked like a weapon of war had just appeared from nowhere. "Contact established," said Communications Officer Danny Kim, his fingers dancing over the controls. "I'm reading one vessel, dead ahead. Definitely in trouble, Captain." Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge, looking at the main screen. What she saw there made her catch her breath. The alien ship was nothing like any human vessel. It looked like it had been grown instead of built, with smooth curves and transparent sections that showed gardens inside. Beautiful, delicate, and very clearly dying. "Look at those hull breaches," said Jake Morrison, pointing at the cracks in the alien ship's crystal walls. "They're losing atmosphere fast." "How long do they have?" Rodriguez asked. "Maybe 6 hours if they're lucky," replied Dr. Ben Torres over the communication system. He was down in the medical bay, already preparing for casualties. "Could be less if those cracks get bigger." Rodriguez didn't hesitate. In her mind, this was simple. People were dying, and she had the power to save them. Nothing else mattered. "Launch rescue shuttles immediately," she ordered. "Full emergency response. I want every medical team ready for alien biology. We're going in hard and fast." What happened next would have horrified any member of the Galactic Peaceful Alliance. The Leviathan's launch bays opened like the mouths of hungry beasts. 12 military assault shuttles shot out of the ship, their engines burning bright blue against the darkness of space. Each shuttle was painted in the gray and black colors of Earth's space navy. They were covered in sensors and communication equipment that looked like weapons to untrained eyes. Their hulls were thick and armored, designed to carry soldiers into battle zones where people would be shooting at them. To the humans, these were just the tools they had available for rescue work. To the aliens watching from inside their dying ship, it looked like an invasion force was coming to destroy them. Captain Veltar pressed himself against the wall of the Gentle Current's main garden, the only place on the ship that still had breathable air. Around him, his crew huddled together like frightened children. Through the clear walls, they could see the human shuttles approaching their ship. "Blessed flowers protect us," whispered Science Officer Mordan. "What are those things?" The shuttles looked nothing like any rescue vehicle the Zephyrians had ever seen. They were angular and aggressive, with sharp edges and surfaces that seemed to absorb light. As they got closer, the aliens could see that each shuttle had markings on it that looked like symbols of war. "They're going to board us," said Communications Officer Lindsay, her skin turning the pale blue of pure terror. "Captain, what do we do?" Veltar tried to think, but his mind was clouded by fear and the lack of good air to breathe. His species had never faced anything like this in their entire history. The scariest thing most Zephyrians ever encountered was a wilted flower. The first shuttle clamped onto their hull with a sound like thunder. Then came the noise that would haunt the aliens' dreams for years to come. The humans were cutting through their ship's wall with tools that screamed and roared like wild animals. Sergeant Amy Fletcher was the first human to board the alien ship. She was a combat medic, trained to save lives in the middle of war zones. Her plasma cutter made quick work of the crystal wall, creating an opening big enough for her entire team to enter. When Amy stepped through the hole she had just made, she was thinking about saving lives. She had her medical scanner in one hand and her first aid kit in the other. Her suit's computer was already analyzing the air and looking for signs of the aliens who had called for help. What she didn't realize was how she looked to the creatures. Cowering in the garden, Amy was tall and strong, built like someone who had spent years preparing for combat. Her spacesuit was black and gray, with lights and equipment that made her look like a machine of war. When she took off her helmet, the aliens saw her face for the first time. To other humans, Amy looked perfectly normal. She had short brown hair, green eyes, and a friendly smile. But to the Zephyrians, she looked like their worst nightmare come to life. Her eyes faced forward like a predator's. Her teeth were visible when she smiled, sharp and white. Her skin was pale and looked tough enough to stop a blade. Everything about her screamed dangerous to creatures who had evolved in a world where nothing ever tried to hurt anything else. Medical. Emergency? Amy asked in perfect galactic standard. Her suit's computer had spent the trip learning the alien language from their distress call. Who needs help? The Zephyrians almost fainted. Not only did this creature look like a monster, but it could speak their language. Veltar tried to answer, but all that came out was a small squeaking sound. Behind Amy, more humans came through the hole in the wall. Each one looked just as dangerous as the first. They moved with the quick, efficient steps of people who were used to working in places where seconds could mean the difference between life and death. The humans spread out through the ship, their scanners beeping and flashing as they searched for survivors. They worked with a speed and precision that the aliens had never seen before. Within minutes, they had found every crew member and started checking their health. Multiple cases of atmospheric poisoning, reported Chief Medical Officer Ben Torres, as he set up a treatment station in the garden. Some kind of plant-based biology I've never seen before. They're all slowly suffocating. Amy knelt down next to Captain Veltar, who was barely conscious. Her medical scanner hummed as it examined his alien biology, learning how his body worked in real time. "Don't worry," she said gently. "We're going to get you out of here." But to Veltar, those words sounded like a threat. Get you out of here could mean anything. Were they going to take him prisoner? Were they going to eat him? His people had no experience with predators, so his mind filled in the blanks with the worst possibilities he could imagine. More humans poured into the ship, carrying equipment that looked like it belonged on a battlefield. They set up machines that beeped and flashed, filled the air with strange smells, and made noises that hurt alien ears. "Time frame for evacuation," called out Captain Rodriguez over the radio. 6 minutes for full extraction," Amy replied. "We need to get them to our medical bay immediately." The humans began moving the alien crew with the same efficiency they would use to evacuate wounded soldiers from a war zone. They lifted the Zephyrians onto stretchers that looked more like weapons than medical devices, then carried them quickly toward their shuttles. As Veltar was carried through the hole in his ship's wall, he caught one last glimpse of his beautiful vessel. The humans had saved their lives, but at what cost? And what did these dangerous creatures want in return? The shuttle ride to the human ship felt like being swallowed by a metal beast. The interior was all hard surfaces and flashing lights, nothing like the soft living spaces the Zephyrians were used to. When the shuttle docked with the Leviathan, the aliens got their first look at humanity's idea of a rescue ship. It was the most terrifying thing they had ever seen.